Hello everybody, welcome into Scores, Goals, and Touchdowns. Mr. Pat, back with us again, Larry Gagan. Also back with us, he was on the show that the camera mic didn't work on us, so we didn't get any sound. Welcome back, Joe Al. Alright, a lot of things happened this week, but when something this big happens, you can't not talk about it. So this whole show, we're going to go talk about the allegations and all the stuff that's been going on at Penn State involving Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky, the athletic director, all that stuff. A little bit of background. Jerry Sandusky was a coach at Penn State. He was supposed to be Joe Paterno's next guy. He was the next in line. Just retired in like 1999 or 98. No one really knew why. Come to find out, we now know. But
we speculate as to why we know.
Yeah, speculate. He's been charged. Well, people have been saying and people have come out saying that they've been sexually assaulting and raping young boys that he's gotten through his charity that he has through Penn State. He was actually.
I don't think the charity has anything to do with Penn State. It's his charity, but it's not. Penn State doesn't have anything to do with the charity. Oh, okay. It's like his own independent charity.
Okay. Well, he takes them at Penn State. That's where he takes
kids to Penn State.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, and then he was eventually walked in on by a graduate assistant in, I think that was 1998.
That was 02.
02?
That was 02.
Okay, 02. He told his dad about it, and his dad told him, tell Joe Paterno. So the next day they called Joe, let him know what happened. Joe immediately goes to his superiors, but it seems like his superiors just swept it all under the rug. They took away his keys, wouldn't let him in, but he still has complete access to Penn State facilities. Now, there's been a whole media firestorm about this, and rightfully so. I mean, child abuse, rape is one of the lowest things that everybody can agree on. It's horrible what happened to these kids. In the aftermath, Joe Paterno was fired via telephone. Penn State rioted, but I guess I talked enough. Tell us your first thoughts when you heard about this.
It was disgusting, to be honest with you. I mean, like you said, child abuse is just one of those things you just should never do. It's just something that morally I can't even fathom even thinking about doing something like that. My opinions really were kind of vague until I actually sat down and read the grand jury testimony. And after that, you realize how long this process had taken and how absolutely disgusting it was.
Yes.
And how people really did try and cover it up. And I think that's what is going to end up coming out eventually, is that this was one big, giant cover-up throughout all of Penn State. Because there's no way this happens from over a 15-year span and no one finds out about it, or it doesn't get out. I'd say it's one giant cover-up.
Joe?
I'm just disgusted with everyone involved in the whole thing. A lot of people are giving a lot of heat to Joe Paterno, and rightfully so. People are making arguments that it's the AD's fault, it's the president. Joe Paterno did his job. Well, obviously Joe Paterno didn't do his job because he lost his job. But everyone involved in that process, the AD, the president, you can't cover that up. Like, this is a crime. This isn't tattoos or
golden pants,
money, or cars, like whatever all the other athletes or all the other schools are getting. Like, we're talking about a crime. And as his job requirements state, like, you're to report everything to the AD. Well, you know what? Joe Paterno is bigger than life. He is college football. You think about all the college football coaches, Joe Paterno is going to be one of the first 5 that come to your mind.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And he is the leader of that program. He's the leader of college football. And for him to fail on such a white and black thing, there's a lot of gray in a lot of areas, but to me, this is black and white. There was a crime committed. The kid and his father came to him, so he's got to think it is a serious, like, this isn't some scheme to try and bring down Jerry Sandusky, someone that's his friend or whatever. Like, this is serious. I mean, so he knew it was going on. He needs to step up to the plate and take that to the authorities if his boss, and if they don't. I mean, it's lack of courage. It's just disgusting on so many different levels. And McQuarrie, is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
Like that, I'm disgusted by him too. I mean, I know he's a young kid and he's a graduate assistant, but I mean, you see that happening, you don't stop that? I don't care who that is.
That's one of the biggest mind-boggling parts of the whole thing is, how do you see that and just not... I understand in the moment, you could be that brief moment of, oh my God, what's going on? And just kind of have everything hit you and not know what to do. But after that moment, how do you not go in there and stop that? And especially McQuarrie's not a small guy. He's a big dude. I mean, he played football at Penn State, and he's a large guy, especially when you see him stand next to the players like in the huddle. And then to call your dad, I understand, you need to talk to someone, call the police, call campus police, call anyone. And then for his dad, just as much to blame, because he told him come home. Not stop it, not do anything, come home. So both of those two are just as bad as anyone else.
To be fair, though, I do agree, it is a horrible, horrible situation, but it is, you never know what you do in a situation like that. I understand, I was disgusted as well, but that is an extremely difficult situation.
I agree, but you have to at least have that sense in you of this is wrong, I can't leave this and let this continue knowing what's going on and then just walk out of the building. Like that to me, I mean, I can understand if you didn't go in and stop it, but at least take 5 steps back, get your phone out, call the police, or call someone to come in there and stop this.
Well, Penn State, I mean, if that were, I don't know, I've been going to a therapist because I had a gun pointed at me in May. Where I work, this Yahoo came out, started shooting, set the warehouse on fire. I went to go tell the other office employees that there was something going on, and the guy opens up the door and points a gun at me and the guy in front of me. Tells me, get out of here. So I turn around, I call the police, clear out the office. One kid got shot, I took him to the hospital. Well, I'm talking to my therapist, and they're telling me there are 10% of people that are leaders, take care of stuff. There's 70% of people that are functional and can do something when stuff hits the fan. And then there's another 20% that are just, they're a deer in headlights. And I think McQuarrie's a deer in headlights. But Penn State is lucky that it's not that other 10%, because they'd probably be covering up murder right now. Because there's no way in hell that I would let anyone do that to a 10-year-old boy.
And especially if that's, a lot of the people have this, are trying to defend Joe Paterno, mainly of people living in Pennsylvania. But it is hard, especially if those were your kids, something you'd be singing a different tune. But back on Joe Paterno, he was fired a few days ago, wasn't allowed to go and finish the season, which I completely agreed with. Yep. He shouldn't be able to ride out into the sunset with all that. But it is worth noting, he did go to his superior. He did everything he should have done legally, not morally, legally. And there's something, and Weber, Weber, one of the guys on this show, I've been going back and forth with him on this issue a lot. Joe's been going back and forth with him on this issue. I know that people here wouldn't really defend him that much, and rightfully so. I'm having a hard time doing it myself. But I did ask Weber to give me a statement that he wanted to say that I'm just going to share with you guys right now. He wrote, Joe Paterno is being vilified by the media for acting in a situation like 95% or more of the American populace would have done if it was in that situation. I simply don't believe that all the people saying that he could have done more would have actually done more. After all of his service to Penn State, I feel the only reason Joe Pa was fired was because of the roar of the media from the moral towers was too much for the Penn State Board of Trustees to bear, not because he actually deserved to be fired. That sounds like mob justice or a witch hunt to me.
I'm not even sure where to begin with that. I mean, I would like to believe that there's a lot of people that would have done things a lot differently than Mike McQuarrie did. And I've said this all week when I've been talking to people about this. Joe Paterno did what he was supposed to do. He went to his superiors, told them, hey, this is what I was told. This is what happened in our facilities, on our campus. Okay. He didn't do what he should have done. He didn't do more, especially after weeks go on. And this guy is still around campus. He's still bringing kids onto campus years later. And this is still happening on campus years later. How do you not say anything about it? How do you, again, don't go to the AD or go to the president or go to whoever. Go to the cops. I don't care who you go to. But that's why I think it's a cover-up, because it's been going on for so long. There's no way you continue to let that happen, especially when you know this guy is getting kids from his own charitable foundation, and that's where he's picking all these kids up from. How do you not stop this? How do you not report this to anyone? I understand he's your friend, but you can only protect your friends so long when they're doing something this heinous.
LC, I don't believe he did what he was supposed to do. Like, as far as his job requirements, take his job out of this situation. What would you do? What are you supposed to do? You're supposed
Stop
to take
it.
that to the authorities. You're supposed to stop it. If you're in Joe Paterno's situation, I mean, you're a man of great wisdom. You've been around the block, and this student is coming to you. He's looking for you for guidance on what to do in this situation. And Joe Pa failed him. His dad failed him. Like everyone in this situation, the AD, the president, they all failed. And I'd have trouble sleeping at night if I were them. I mean, if you think about all the kids that Sandusky's done this to since they found out about it,
Dozens of them.
like that's sick. And that's got to be weighing on their shoulders. If it isn't, it should be.
Dozens that they know about, too.
Yeah.
They're asking more people if this happened to come forward. It is a very scary.
They did it to protect their football program and their school because they know basically football built that school.
Oh, yeah.
Without Joe Paterno and without Penn State football, that school is still a small school in Pennsylvania.
3 hours from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean it was never a big school until Joe Paterno got there and turned it into a football powerhouse. I mean, they did it to protect the school, and they're all going to go down for it.
Yeah.
Well, now that you talk about that, what's the NCAA's stance to this now?
I'm not sure how much not leeway, but jurisdiction the NCAA can lay down on it. I mean, I understand you could say if Joe Paterno was part of it and covered it up, I suppose they can lay down some sort of sanction on him. But I'm not sure. I think this falls way over the heads of the NCAA and goes all. I mean, anything that has to do with like child abuse is a federal offense. So I mean, this is like FBI into Washington, Congress, Supreme Court. This is way, way ahead of the NCAA.
And that's another great point that you make a case for. You look at, everyone's like, oh, Paterno's being vilified for this. Why aren't we going after the AD or the president that are supposed to do something? Well, in this case, the president and the AD, something's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
They're going to get theirs. Where I think Joe Pa might skate under the radar because of his job responsibilities. Doing what their process calls for.
And he got more attention because those other guys, the VP of Finance and Business, the AD, they bolted before all this came out, and they resigned because they knew what was coming. So, I mean, they haven't been in the light as much as Paterno. They weren't fired like the president was and like Paterno was. So, I mean, they've kind of been under the radar, and, Paterno's going to get a lot of the heat because he's the figurehead of that school. But, I mean, those guys are all going to get their day in court, and they're all going to...
Yeah, and you mentioned Paterno. It's interesting to think about his legacy, all those years that he built up, those 60-plus years, all torn down in an instant. The man has a statue at Penn State.
It's coming down.
He's got a library named after him. The Big Ten championship trophy, the Stagg Paterno trophy, what do you do with that? Do you change the name? Do you keep it?
I think you almost have to. You can't have anyone associated with this sort of behavior.
Maybe they changed it to the Legends and the Leaders trophy.
It is. It's a horrible situation. We can't say that enough. And you kind of want to feel sorry for him, but then you think about the kids in this situation. It's like you can't do it. It's horrible. I mean, he didn't deserve, he wanted to finish out the year. Penn State, I'll say the only good thing they've done right was not let him do it. I don't necessarily agree firing him over the phone, but you can't let him finish out the year. You can't let him be hoisted out by his players. You can't have that be the last game.
They're not even done with that. McQuarrie's on leave right now. But
Well, it took that till Friday until they put him on leave because he was going to coach the game. I said, you cannot have that man.
Well, they were going to have him off the field.
They were going to have him in the box,
for safety concerns.
But even then,
but now
can't
they
have
finally
that
put him
man
on
there.
leave. But he needs to go too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think you clean house with that whole staff. It's all got to go.
All right, sorry guys, got to cut you off. We got to come back and do Pat's piece. See you then. It's hard to remain neutral, but a story like this, it's almost impossible. Proof of that, Joe Paterno was completely immune to criticism. He went from being a figure as big as college football to being reviled by a large portion of this country. I think we talked about Paterno enough in our show today, so I want to talk about the students who should be embarrassed by their actions. I understand being upset that your larger-than-life football coach was fired over the phone, but do you understand what happened? This isn't a situation where you paid for players or you had recruiting violations. This involved rape of children. It is inexcusable and sick the way the students reacted. There were reporters being pelted with objects, a TV truck was flipped over, and streetlights torn down. It was stupid to blame the media, and I think and hope that the rioters will look back and are embarrassed by the way they conducted themselves. It wasn't the media that allowed the children to get raped. Thank you for watching Scores, Goals, and Touchdowns. See you next time.